Is a fast fade from the Midnighters, Jump, Jive, and Harmonize. Almost a live sound.
Yeah, I think they wanted it to be a live sound.
Or it might have been the budget, I suspect.
Yeah, I can see where that sort of record really would have influenced and shaped the sound of the Cramps.
Oh, definitely.
It does,
definitely.
Yeah. Where do you find your records? I mean, do you have time when you're on tour to go off to kind of junk shops and specialist record stores or fairs?
We make time for it. I think it used to be easier, before we toured and all, but in a way it's an advantage because we go to places we weren't able to go to before. We try to make time to find records. They're increasingly hard to find because there's always more and more collectors, and we kind of got to really jump on a lot of stuff, I think.
A lot of our fans give us records, which is a trend I'd like to encourage out there in Radio Land.
I can imagine. What about British records or British bands of the 50s or 60s? Are there any that spring to mind? Because I know all your choices tonight come from North America.
Right. Well, I was just about to say the Midnighters did a lot of Rolling Stones covers. They actually were influenced a lot when that came around. I think they started out before the Rolling Stones were known in America, but they were really influenced by that.
There are a lot of bands like that. Northwest sound is real similar to East LA sound, and all the bands from the Northwest sounds all did the Northwest area, Seattle area, all did covers of like Kinks songs and things like that. We grew up like crazy for the Yardbirds and the Kinks and all those bands. They were really the first remembrances.
Yeah,
I'm
not aware of any 50s music from England, but like Yardbirds and Pretty Things were, at that time, it seemed like the most exciting thing I knew
about. Still drives us nuts.
Even
as
we
just
speak.
Recycling Bo Diddley, I guess.
All right, Andre Williams is next in this pile of obscure little things you brought along. Pass the Biscuits, Please, is the name of this. Now, these aren't the biscuits that we think of here, they're sort of cookies.
No, biscuits are soul food in America. They're more like bread and
doughy things.
Yeah.
Over here, I know that this means a girl's anatomy over here, but in America, that's a different meaning.
No, in America, they're generally served with red-eye gravy and pork chops or something.
It's like a hard roll here that you get in the morning with continental breakfast, but it's a soft roll, and you sop up gravy with it.
Yeah, it's delicious. I have fond memories of biscuit eating down in Georgia, where I live for a while.
That's the real stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, Pass the Biscuits, Please, then. This is another one of Ivy's choices from Andre Williams.
Excuse me. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. But will you please pass the biscuits down, please? Will you pass the biscuits down, please? I can't understand it. I go out and work and slave, and all my kinfolks do is play. Look at Uncle John down there. He's had 4 biscuits already. No wonder he got 4 chins. And there's Aunt Lucy down at the other end. I thought she was on a diet. If she ain't had 8 biscuits, she ain't had none. Excuse me, Uncle Bill, but will you please pass the biscuits, please? Will you pass the biscuits, please? Them biscuits sure is disappearing fast. I wish they would just look down this way. Maybe I can get Mary's attention. Say, Mary. Say, Mary. Will you please pass the biscuits, please? The only time they come down is for wedding, funerals, and receptions. You take old cousin Jeff. I ain't seen him in 2 years. And he don't even know I'm here. All he see is them biscuits. I don't want to reach over Betty, cause Grandma says that's ill manners, she said. But this meat ain't no good without no bread. Say, will you pass the biscuits, please? Or will you please pass the biscuits, please? I got enough taters and some yellow gravy. I sure wish they would just pass one of them biscuits. Look at it. It's almost finished and I ain't even started eating yet. Say, will you pass the biscuits, please? Say, will you please pass the biscuits, please? I don't know why did Emma put them biscuits down at the other end of the table. will you pass the biscuits, please? Will you please pass the biscuits, please? Now, there's one more biscuit left. Maybe if I get up and walk down the other end of the table, I might get that one. Pardon me. Excuse me. Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Say, no, wait, Uncle Jeff. Wait, please, wait. No. Well, I'll be doggone. He done ate up the last biscuit. I wanted the biscuits.
I wonder if that's ever been played on British radio before, from Andre Williams, Pass the Biscuits, Please. What is it about that, Ivy, that attracted you to it?
I think it's a hilarious recording. I don't think it was ever on American airwaves at any time either. And I'm always impressed by, the fact that somebody would put something like that on a record. It's actually almost a conversation more than it's music, and it's...
we feel that it's a brilliant portrayal of the American Negro and his eating habits.
Now, some people, when I mentioned that you were going to be doing Collector's Choice, looked at me and said, "You're kidding, the Cramps are going to be on the radio? What are you going to do?" Because you have an image of being really kind of wild and, certainly unpredictable. These choices of records, for example, fulfill that part of the prophecy anyway, about being unpredictable. But when Stuart Copeland was here a few months ago, he was talking about how some bands kind of pretend to be hard or weird and wild when they're not really, and they are completely different when they take their stage clothes off and go home and see Mom and Dad or what have you.
Well, we take our stage clothes off, it gets weirder than you can imagine.
He said something like that. He said that the Cramps were the real thing. Because he went into a dressing room once or something, and he said he described you people as being kind of like bats in the dark or something like that, waiting to go on.
Thank you, Stu, baby.
You of course, did have a legal wrangle with his brother Miles Copeland.
Yeah, he can tell you how much trouble we are.
So how has that been settled now? Because this did interrupt kind of recording plans and what have you, didn't?
Yeah, I can't go into detail because that's part of the terms of the agreement that nobody would, but mainly, to sum it up, we didn't see eye to eye at all, and they were not the proper label for the Cramps. We had to leave, and we did, and now we're gone.
The main reason it took so long is it's his bunch of lawyers against our bunch of lawyers, and they all had a good time, and we and us two just sat on the sideline and bought each other hot dogs while we waited for it to finish.
Yeah. These things do get out of hand.
Do terms like shockabilly or psychobilly actually sit easily with you when people talk about your music, try and describe you? Are you happy for those tags? Because they often
don't mind it.
sit alongside.
They're narrow labels that aren't even accurate labels. Plus, they're very, so narrow. But I don't. They're good words, I like those words, and I don't object, because it still sounds cool. That sounds like something cool to be to me. We're just a rock and roll band.
Yeah, if I had my druthers, I just wish it was called rock and roll, because that's something that there's very little of around today, just pure rock and roll. That's what we are. Don't nickname it. You might as well claim it. It's just rock and roll, basically.
If people nowadays are more familiar with rock and roll anymore, they would realize to just call us that. But those things they call us is cool, as long as they keep calling us a bunch of different things.
Right. Would you like to have a hit single? Is that something that you'd like to work for now with all the legal wrangles behind you, and you're going to be out presumably recording again if you haven't already?
I'd love to have a hit single. I don't think we have to change a thing to do that either, because since we are really just rock and roll and not one of these weird cultish things.
I'm going to try.
We're
going to write a single.
Everybody.
We're going to write a single just like Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Call it Rockabilly Jean and see if it works.
It probably
change the words
would.
around a little, change a note or two here. I think we can make it.
Marvin Rainwater is a familiar name to a lot of rock and roll fans. This particular number, Hot and Cold, is not one that I know, though. So what does it
I
come
think
from?
it's just him at his most psychotic. It's a completely psychotic song with real wild slide guitar, and he's just ranting and raving relentlessly.
If you want a perfect rock and roll record, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah,
just
it's just
perfect.
brief, and you can hardly absorb it, when you hear it.
Is this your all-time fave, would you say?
One of them. I have so many all-time favorites, but it's easy for me to say that this is.
It's in the top two.
Okay, let's hear it.
That's what it takes, so I've been told. Cold and hot, now give me hot. Now cold, hot, cold, hot and cold. Man, I'm sold. Now give me a little bit of that rock and roll. Go cold. Rock and roll, rock and roll. I can't stand still not to save my soul. I roll and rock, I roll and rock. That kind of rhythm would stop the clock. Give me rock,